Hey y'all, I want to welcome you to a new episode of Crowning Convos, where every jewel you receive here gets you one step closer to receiving your crown from God. Now, y'all, these jewels are not intended for you to just take and put them up and save them for a rainy day. What you want to do is take them back to God and start your own conversation with Him, where He will provide you with insight, instruction, and increase. I am your host, Aaliyah, and I'm so happy you're joining me today. So, you guys, I'm ecstatic about being back on the podcast. First off, I have posted some videos not recently, but like November, December type. But y'all ain't seen my face. Y'all ain't seen my face since, I don't even know, was it the video where I told y'all I got laid off? That was October 18th. That might be the last video that I came on camera or whatever. Listen, I be recording words, even in that interim where I wasn't on camera or I did post some stuff. I've recorded a lot of different things. I'm allowing God to lead me when it comes to releasing those things. I still have some videos that I recorded last year that has never been released. So when God feels like it's time, I might put them in a new podcast video or however He want me to do it. But there's a lot of content that I have, and I just want to wait on God to release it so that it can reach the person that it's supposed to reach. But I'm definitely happy to be back. And I'm thankful for the divine helpers that God has sent to me to remind me that I'm supposed to be on my podcast. Because at this time, I'm currently still not working. Today is January 20th, I believe. I'm still not working. I've had to finish my kingdom assignments. One of them was a book, and the other one was I needed to come back to my podcast. And I've been dreading coming back to my podcast because I don't really have nothing new to update y'all on. But I was talking to my best friend's grandmother the other day, and she always say this every time we talk, but she's like, you got some work in the kingdom to do. You got some work in the kingdom to do. And before, I always associated that with my book. But since it's finished, it's kind of like, yeah, God already been calling me back to my podcast, and she just confirmed it. So I'm here. I'm ready. And today, so first off, I am going to come back and update y'all on like where I am in life, period. Like, you all know that I'm not working, but girl, what have you been doing for the last 3-4 months? I'm going to come back and tell y'all that. Today, God has me on something very specific, so we're going to go with that. Now, the last couple of videos I posted, I told y'all, one of them was called Let God Protect You. The other one was Let God Defend You. And I told y'all there might be a part 3, and this is going to be the part 3. This is going to be titled, Let God Give You the Desires of Your Heart. Let God give you the desires of your heart. But first, before I even go into that, I need to explain to y'all how I even got to that. There's a reason why this topic has been so delayed, because I wasn't in a position for God to give me anything, right? So I'm going to now update y'all on where I am with this Kingdom Marriage Promise. So if you remember last year, I want to say in June, I revealed to y'all that God had told me that my best friend was my husband. Now, God told me this back in October 5th, 2021. I just didn't really tell y'all that. I always, whatever. I didn't tell y'all that. And so back in September, he decided he wanted to take some space. I was cool with it. We talked again in October, and that conversation went so bad. We both was like, yeah, we probably don't even need to be friends right now. Stayed on that. And at that time, God was still telling me that he's my husband. But I'm just like, yeah, I don't like him. There's no way. It's not possible. But I'm still trying to, appease God and make sure I'm doing what he said, not what I want to do and not what my best friend want me to do. So moving forward, sometime in November, God had me to start reaching out to my best friend and trying to reintroduce him to my son's life. And I say this, I'm going to say this here, but my best friend and my son have an amazing relationship. I love their relationship. That's very important. We're going to get to that, but that's important for me to mention here. So a lot of time God will use my son to kind of reconcile me and my best friend. When we at odds, we two grown people. Like when we don't like each other, we don't like each other, but we both love my baby. And so sometimes our love for my son is what reconciles us and brings us back into each other's life. I struggled with that. I struggled with God wanting me to initiate conversation with him. Like, he the one that said, he wanted his space. Why do I have to talk to him first? Why do I have to reach out to him first? Why do I have to call him first? He know my number. He can call me about my son. He can call me and ask me about him. He's not doing none of that. So what it caused me to start doing was, it caused me to start building up a resentment towards him. Because God is always using me to lead him. And God has built me into a submissive wife, right? So I'm just trying to submit. I ain't trying to lead. I'm trying to submit. I'm trying to follow the man that you place in my life, but you have me to lead him all the time. You have me initiate things with him all the time. And it really caused me to build up resentment towards him. I started feeling like he was lazy. Like, you're just lazy. God is probably telling you to reach out to me. As a matter of fact, the very first time we started talking again after October, I told him, I don't know why God wanted me to call you today. He told me in three different scriptures, he wanted me to call you. And he was like, oh, I know why. And I said, why? And he was like, well, I had been thinking about y'all. And, but I just didn't reach out. And I was like, you didn't, think to go ask God if you should reach out to us or not? And he was like, nah, I don't be trying to do that overthinking stuff. And that bothered me because it's just like, how lazy is that for you to think about somebody that you care about, think about these people that you care about, and just not reach out? I'm in my head, y'all, in my flesh. That is so lazy. That is so lazy. So I have this resentment towards him. Like, you're just lazy. You're lazy when it comes to our friendship. You're lazy when it comes to my son. Like, I have to call you in order for you to ask about him. I gotta call you and ask you, hey, you want to see us? Or like, that's lazy. It's lazy. And so it has caused me to just not desire that marriage with him. So in December, God had me to reach out to him and ask him if he wanted to stop by for Christmas and spend time with my son. And he told me, thank you for the invite, but then he never showed. And I ended up asking him, later on Christmas Eve, like, were you coming? And he was like, oh, no, I'm not coming. But, I was just saying, thank you for the invite. Listen, that threw me for a tizzy because, for one, you could have said that. But for two, I got mad because when God has me initiate things with him, again, y'all, I've been standing for a marriage with him for 3.5 years. When God has me to initiate things with him, I've gotten to the point where I don't want to initiate it unless something is going to come out of it. So I always tell y'all, go and ask God questions. Keep getting on his nerves. Keep aggravating him. Ask him all the questions that you want to ask. And that's what I be doing. So God could say, go call him. I'm going to ask, why you want me to call him? Why I always got to be the one to call him first? Is he going to answer? Is he going to talk to me? Why you don't have him to call me? I got 10 questions before I even do anything that God has asked me to do. I need to know that he's going to respond. So I remember when it came to Christmas, when God kept asking me to initiate and send him an invite, I kept asking him, like, is he going to respond? God, don't have me to send this invite if he don't come. Why he don't just ask, can he come over? I'm asking all these questions, and I remember, I can't remember the scripture, but there was a scripture where God said, just send the invite. Just invite them. So I did it, and okay. Now, for God, that's good enough. Whether he responds or not, I don't have nothing to do with that. It's about me being obedient to God. But me being selfish, I'm PO because why you had me to send that invite and he wasn't going to come? You knew he wasn't going to come. Why you had me to send the invite? So I'm mad. So the next day, December 26th, we have a conversation about it. I go off and I let loose everything that I felt. I let loose everything that I felt about him being lazy. I let loose everything I felt about how he doesn't stand on business when it comes to us. One of the things he last told me was, I don't mind being in my son's life. I don't mind being in your life. I don't mind being your friend. And that was another thing that offended me. That's what he told me in early December, I believe. But that's another thing that offended me, because when you say I don't mind, to me, that's like if somebody asks you a favor. Hey, can you stop by and pick up my meal on the way home? Yeah, I don't mind. Can you stop by McDonald's and give me some French fries? Yeah, I don't mind. Do you want to be my girlfriend, or will you be my wife? Yeah, I don't mind. Now, if somebody said I don't mind to that, you're going to look crazy, because what you mean you don't mind? What do you mean you don't mind? I asked you to be my girlfriend. I asked you to be my wife. You don't mind. I feel like that's something that you say when you ask somebody for a favor, or you ask them to almost go out of their way for something, and they're saying, oh, I'm not going out of my way, like it's fine. And I went off about that. I'm like, yo, me and my son, we're never an option in nobody's life. Don't ever tell me what you don't mind doing as if I'm an option, as if I asked you to do this. So it turned into a really big thing. I let loose everything that I had been feeling, which caused me to also curse him out and say some things to him that I've never said to him before. I've never said to him, and I will never say again. My mind when I said these things was, I'm done. I'm going to say something that cuts ties, and he going to be done on his end, and I'm going to be done. Because my thing is, if I ever say this to a man that I care about, I'm done. Because I don't disrespect men. If I love you like that, I'm not going to disrespect you. Hence why I've never disrespected him the whole time we've been friends, because I always loved him. And he was somebody that was worthy of respect. So I would never disrespect him. But I had got to the point where, just being honest, I did not respect what I saw. I did not respect what I saw. I allowed my feelings to lead me on whether he was worthy of that respect anymore or not. And I acted off of that. So I said what I said, and that was it. Now, I said it was 3 major things that I said to him. God had me to apologize for one of them the very next day. I apologize for that one. Sorry for saying that. Have a good day. And I meant it, but God wasn't good with that. However, he didn't hound me. He didn't hound me about it, because he knew he was going to get to me. So I have this, my laptop right here. So God is still telling me that that's my husband. But at this point, y'all, there's no way. There's no way. So I remember on December 30th, that night, I was like, Lord, I feel like you might be saying he's still my husband, but I don't know for sure. You might be doing something new for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the list of the man that I want. Like, in case you giving me somebody else, you're going to bless me with somebody else, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I want. And I was very specific. I've never given God a list that included somebody's physical characteristics. I've never done that, because I've always focused more on the qualities. Somebody that's loving, somebody that's caring, somebody who wants to be a father, wants to be a husband, is going to respect me, is going to respect my son, going to have a great relationship with my son, respect me and my son's relationship, know how to lovingly discipline, is good with his family, good with the people around him, is nice and kind and sweet, even if I'm not, is patient, is gracious. I've always been very specific about those qualities. But this time tonight, that night, December 30th, I wrote down physical characteristics. I love chocolate men. I love black men, period. No offense to nobody else. But my black kings, I'm crazy about y'all. I am crazy about black men. So, that's all black men of all shades. Like, I love black men, period. I love y'all. But I was very specific this night. Chocolate. He got a football field. He got a football build. Not football field. A football build. He got 1 kid. He has a day job. And it's so funny because those qualities is like the opposite of my best friend. My best friend is tall, skinny, light skin. He don't have no kids. Like, complete opposite. So that night, I don't know if I prayed for this, because sometimes I do. I pray for God to give me a dream about stuff. But God gave me a dream. And I'm going to tell you all that dream. And then I'm going to interpret it in the way that God interpreted it for me. So in the dream, I saw my Uncle Michael. This is my third cousin's dad. So he's not like my mom or my dad's brother, but just my favorite cousin in the whole world. So I saw Uncle Mike sitting at this white table filling out this white card. It was like a baby shower table. And when I say that, it was like one of those circle tables, and it had like a white linen cloth over it. I came in and sat my purse down and said, hey. He got up and hugged me and said he had to go somewhere. He had young kids at the table with him. So when he left, the kids left too. Halle Bailey, Chloe Bailey, the singer, her sister, Halle Bailey is walking with me. She's walking beside me as like an assistant. And she says, why don't you invite him to stay with you? Maybe then he can come down more often. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And then she was like, if he stayed, then you could leave a little thank you note like my sister did. And I was like, why would I say thank you when I don't want anyone staying with me? At this point, we were just walking outside. So then I saw this white invite with gold writing on it. And it said that I was getting married at 6 p.m. that day. So it was like a wedding invitation with my name. It's saying I'm going to get married. It didn't say the husband's name, or I don't remember seeing it, but I know that it was a wedding invite to my wedding. So I rushed to this church house building. It was a building that looked like a church on the outside, but it definitely looked like a house on the inside. There were multiple levels and multiple doors within the building. Then I saw contractors working on the inside of it. They had ladders up and there was paint everywhere. So I start getting my dress and my hair products and everything so I can take them to the venue outside to go get ready. And then I realized my toes weren't done. And I asked one of the 3 Mexican ladies in the room if they had white polish so I can paint over my toes. And one of them said, yeah, I have some in the car. And she went to go get it. I continued getting my things together and got the polish and left to go get dressed. I came down some stair thing to go to the back, which is where the venue was. The venue was in the back of the church building. And I realized I didn't have my shoes. So I text the lady, one of the Mexican ladies in the room, and I said, Mommy, can you bring my shoes with you? At that time, it was 6:50 p.m. So I'm already late to my wedding. My wedding was supposed to be at 6 p.m. It's 6:50. When I get to the back, and it's like, I'm walking up this little hill thing, and when I get to the top of the hill is when I see all the people sitting around. There's tables all around. There's a stage up there. I see the groomsmen and the bridesmaid, but I don't see the groom. And so I see everybody is outside. I'm still not even dressed, and I see the groom isn't there. I slowly walk to the front, and I'm prepared to ask people, can you, that just hit me, wow. Can you ask them for 20 minutes so that I can get dressed? And then I saw my friend Shay. She was at the very first table, and she had twin babies. So she was holding like one in this arm like that and one in this arm like that. So she was holding them like that. So what I got is, first off, Michael. Michael means who is like God or a gift from God. And then I want y'all to think about children. Children are a gift from God. Let me go back real quick. So what God was telling me in this dream was that I was late to a wedding with a husband because I was waiting for a husband that does not exist for me. Meaning that list that I wrote the night before, these qualities that my husband got, there's absolutely a man who has those qualities. He does not belong to me. He's not my husband. I'm not marrying a chocolate man. I'm not marrying a man with a football build. That's not for me. That's what God was telling me. So let's break it down. Michael means who is like God or a gift from God. Children, what do they say children is? A gift of God or a gift from God. So you remember when I got there, my uncle left. That's God's gift leaving. It's God's gift leaving. Halle Bailey she asked me to ask him to stay, and I said no. And that is me saying no. I'm not going to ask for the promise of God to stay. I'm not going to wait for that. I don't want that anymore. That's what I'm saying. Remember, because she said, why don't you ask him to stay? Maybe then he can come down more often. And I was like, no, I don't want him to stay. And then she said, well, why not? Because then you can write him a thank you note. And I was like, why would I say thank you if I don't want anyone staying here? Right? So that's me like being closed off and saying, no, I don't want that. Not only that, but Haley means praise the Lord. Bailey means someone responsible for maintaining order and law. So this is almost as if it's God saying, stay in this situation. And I'm like, no, I'm not staying in that situation. Absolutely not. So that's that. So then the next scene is I see that I have a wedding. I'm supposed to get married that day at 6 p.m. Did not even know about it. I rushed to this church house building. When I get inside, there's ladders everywhere. There are contractors everywhere. The rug inside the house was brown. The contractors had wasted white paint everywhere. Like there were paint buckets spilling over. There was paint everywhere. We all know, well, I don't know if we all know, but usually in your dream, your house symbolizes you as a person. And so the inside of your house can symbolize your heart. Even the inside of your bedroom, that's the most intimate part of your house, that can symbolize your heart. God was saying to me that with the brown carpet and the white paint, I'm trying to purify something that's not of him. So I'm trying to make right something that he's not trying to give me. Then I go into the room and there are 3 Mexican ladies. And I asked one of them for nail polish and she says, yeah. And then I end up calling, I'm gathering my stuff. And when I'm leaving, I call back to that woman. I say, Mommy, can you bring me my shoes? That's not my mother. My mother is not Mexican. I am fully African American. My mother is fully African American. These are foreigners. Again, picking up something that does not belong to you. That's not my mom. That's not my family. So that's what God ministered to me about that. And he gave me Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 19, which talks about living amongst foreigners. Now, it's nothing wrong, of course, with living in a mixed community or anything like that. But in my dream, this just symbolized me living amongst people who were not my tribe. When I go outside and I go over the hill and I see all the people, my friend Shay, she was holding twin babies. In real life, Shay don't have no kids, but she was holding twin babies. God, and she was at the very first table. God said that saying his first choice comes with a gift of double. Shay was at the first table. His first choice comes with 2. It's a gift of double. Let me make sure I'm not. When it came to God saying the man you created is not your husband, God led me to Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through 16, where it's talking about the people who created their own idols and worship them as if they were gods, but they aren't. Go read Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through 16. God is talking about how they grabbed all this gold and this silver and this bronze and this iron, and they got a craftsman to make them idols. But can those idols save you? Can those idols talk to you? God is saying you just tried to create your own idol. That's not happening. That's not what I wanted for you. As in God, that's not what I want for you. Then I asked him to confirm that was actually for me. He led me to Mark chapter 6, verses 9 through 10, where God has sent his disciples off to go minister to people. And I can't remember if this is the chapter where they go 2 by 2, but he tells them to go and don't take anything with them. They could not take a change of clothes, but they could wear shoes. You can't change your clothes. You cannot change your calling. You cannot change your mantle. This is what I said for you. This is what it is. So you can't take no change of clothes, but you can take shoes. You can wear shoes. That's support for your journey. Your feet symbolize your walk. So God said, you got shoes. You got support for your journey. You got support for what I want from you, but you can't take no change of clothes. And then also, they had to stay in the same house. God gave them instructions to stay in the same house. God said, you are to stay where I place you, no matter how hard it looks, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how much he's getting on your nerves, no matter how much he's not doing what you want him to do. You are to stay in that house. So, this is the first confirmation that I'm getting after this fight, that this is the first heavy confirmation, because God had been giving me scriptures, but this is like, he's saying like, this is what that is. So on January 1st, 2025, I wrote this in my notes. The first verse that God gave me that day was 2 Kings chapter 21, verses 7 through 8. And it's a reminder of a promise to establish his name amongst his people and to never cause their feet to wander. And so I asked God, how does he cause someone's feet to wander? And he led me to Ezekiel chapter 48, verses 10 through 22. Somebody, I think it was Ezekiel, somebody was led astray by following their flesh. But boundaries were made to cover what's holy and sacred, God's marriage. And I said, God has a way of causing things for his own purpose, though we don't understand. This is confirmed with Luke chapter 2, verses 21 and verse 28, where Jesus was circumcised and then he was presented. And then I asked God to lead me for something else, lead me to something else. And he led me to the last verse in Jeremiah chapter 51, where it says the words of Jeremiah end here. And God was saying, there's nothing left for you to do or say or anything like this. This is it. And he confirmed it with Zephaniah chapter 1, verses 7, which says to be silent. So God is saying, this is a moment of consecration. This is a moment where I need you to be quiet and not say anything. I've confirmed what things are for you, and that's it. And the very first word the first number he gave me after that was 1125. And in the Strong's Greek Concordance, it means it is written. It is written. That's what it is. You can't change that. So I have this devotion book and I didn't bring it down, but it references Psalms chapter 37, verse 23. God directs the footsteps of the godly, and he's in the details. And so, God also gave me the number 2151, and I just realized that's like a different variation of 1125. That's crazy. But in the Strong's Greek Concordance, it means to be devout and act reverently towards. To be devout and act reverently towards. All right, cool. So let's move on, right? So remember, I tell you all, I say 3 bad things to him, but I've apologized for 1 thing. I'm cool on the other 2 things that I ain't apologized with, because I said what I said and I meant it and I stand on business. I ain't apologizing for those things. Yeah, guys, I apologize for those things. So what happened was, I was listening to a pastor's sermon, and it's called No Passes, and he was talking about taking accountability. And at the very same time that he said that, I had this motivation app on my phone, and it also sent me a quote about taking accountability. So I'm going to insert that quote here. But at this point, I'm like, well, what I do wrong? Like, I already apologized for calling him, what I said. So what else? Like, what am I not being responsible for? Like, what are you saying? Because you're saying something, but what are you saying? Be clear about it. So my son, we're outside of Kroger, and I give my son my phone and I say, choose a verse for me. So he chooses 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 5 through 10, which is talking about someone being sent back. But then within those verses, there's also talking about some work being done in the kingdom. I think he says there's an open door for work in the kingdom, though there's some opposition. Immediately, I know he's talking about my best friend. Immediately, I know that's what he's talking about. So I'm like, okay. So then I see another word of the day. I get these words of a day in my email. I get 2 a day. And so, but I started getting an additional one, a third one. And this one, the word was ersatz, ERSATZ, which means simulated or imitation. And so I'm like, okay, what simulated mean? I look up simulated, it means pretended. So like fake. And I'm like, so what's fake? What I did that was fake. And I ignored it because I'm like, Lord, because initially what I was going to do is I was going to call like my female friend and ask her, like, you know, what do you think God is saying to me in this? But I didn't tell her about the argument that I had with him. So then I'm like, well, maybe I'll just call one of my sisters and ask them because they know and maybe they'll be able to tell me. But I was like, no, I'm going to ask God because he the one that's talking to me. So I'm going to just ask him what's going on, what he mean by that. So I'm leaving out of Kroger and I'm thinking about it or whatever. And when I get home, I sit down and I start watching The Good Doctor. And it's on me so heavy. I'm like, Lord, what you want? Like, I don't understand what you're saying. You're going to have to make it clear to me. So he has me to pause the episode that I'm on. He takes me to Zephaniah chapter 3, where it's talking about the people of Israel. I think they're rebellious and their redemption. And it says the people once rebelled against God, but in verse 9, God said that he was going to purify their speech. And then in verses 14 through 17, God is making it clear that he wants to live within me. God says multiple times within the Bible, he wants to live amongst us. He wants to dwell within us. And one thing about it, God don't dwell in no dirty place. So if he want to live amongst you and live within you, he's not living in no space that's dirty, that's filled with hate, that's filled with pride, that's filled with rebellious, that's filled with disobedience, that's filled with all the things that is not of him, condemnation. He's not living in no dirty place. So when he says this to me, I know that he's saying like he wants to live within me. So I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I need to repent. God want me to repent for something. Y'all, I'm still not thinking that it's those 2 other things that I needed to apologize for. So I'm like, what is it? What did I do wrong? I promise I repent. What is it? So then he takes me to, at that point, he has me to pay attention to the name of the episode that I'm on. It's called Heartfelt. HEARTFELT. Now, usually when you hear the word heartfelt together, you're talking about an apology, like a heartfelt apology, like something coming from your heart. So I'm like, okay, I got to repent. I got to apologize. I'm still not thinking that it's about that man. I'm thinking it's to God. So I'm like, Lord, what you want me to apologize for? He leads me to Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 5 through 11, where Nehemiah learns about the structure of the former temple, and he comes to God and he has like a real prayer session with God. Like he's praising God, but he's also acknowledging the fact that they have messed up. They have been bad people and XYZ. And so at that moment, I realized God is telling me to go apologize to him. God is telling me to go apologize to him for the things that I have not apologized for. And you know, what I find so funny about that is when we had the fight in October, I had been so strong on my best friend. He said something to me that hurt me real bad. And at least 5 different times, I have brought that up to him and let him know that he hurt me when he said that. Now, let me tell you about me. I'm a person that I really watch how I talk to people. I really watch what I say to you, because no matter what I'm talking about or no matter what's going on, I'm not here to hurt you. So it's never my intention to hurt you. So I make sure I'm very careful about the things that I say. However, in establishing boundaries, sometimes you have to be firm, and people are not going to like what you say, but you have to stand on that. So what I will do is, if I'm ever establishing a boundary and I say something that hurts you, but I'm being honest and I'm telling you you know, what's going to work for me, I can apologize for hurting you. I can't change what I'm saying, but I will apologize for hurting you. And I would tell people that, listen, I can't apologize for what I said because, like, I have to. That's a boundary that I'm creating. But if it hurts your feelings, I am sorry, because that's not my intentions at all. I don't never want to hurt you. So I am sorry for hurting your feelings if it really did hurt you. That's how I be apologizing to people when I have to take it to another level. So, so when he didn't apologize to me, my thing was, you don't gotta apologize for what you said. If that's what you really meant, that's stand on that, which that's not what he meant, because he came back in December and said something that was the complete opposite. But you have to acknowledge that you said that wrong to me. So my thing is, acknowledge what you said wrong and apologize for that, and then we can move forward. He still to this day has never apologized for that. Now, I'm not bringing that up to say that I'm still mad about him, because God is working on my heart with that. But I say that to say, I've been mad at him. Like, you don't got to apologize for what you said if that's what you meant, but apologize for the fact that it hurt my feelings. That's how I feel about it. He still ain't did that. But now God put me in that situation where I have to apologize for something that I feel like I meant, but I needed to apologize because I know it hurt him. And I knew it hurt him when I said it. I knew that. So, and there's a word of the day that I have that I've been praying for God to give him. And I'm going to insert that word here. But it means the same thing. So that same day, right after I sent that apology, I got on YouTube and I saw this video titled, "You Are Unstoppable, Handling with Grace." And God was confirming to me that he was pleased with me, like I had done what he had wanted me to do. So he was happy about that. That same day, I saw the word grace 5 different times. What is grace? Grace is undeserved favor and kindness. Grace is giving somebody favor when they don't deserve it. Giving somebody kindness when they don't deserve it. We are not deserving of the things that God gives us. We are not deserving of us to go and repent and God to say, okay, you have been made well with me. We are not deserving of that. God gives us grace because that's what he wants to give us. And guess what? The least we can do is give that to other people. So where I don't want to be talking to my best friend, who am I? Because what about those times God probably don't want to talk to me? Grace is undeserved kindness and favor. Give it even when you feel like that person don't deserve it. And I'm real big on, you don't deserve to talk to me. You don't deserve to be around me. Who am I? Who do I think I am that I'm doing that I'm feeling like that? Humble yourself, right? So all of that is on 1/6, January 6th. I don't know if I said that, but all of that, when I apologize to him, is on January 6th. On January 7th, I'm watching a video on YouTube, and then right afterwards, the movie The War Room starts playing. Like, I don't know if you all know about that movie. I heard about it a while ago. But it's a movie where a woman becomes a prayer warrior for her husband. And she no longer nags at him. She no longer tries to push him to do anything. She prays and she allows God to do it. So God had me to watch The War Room, and I took notes. And so it's titled Learning How to Fight Like a Wife. And he told me, you know, this is what I'm to do. Love him, honor him, support him, fight on my knees and praying consistently, give grace, focus more on God and myself, understand that he's fighting too, understand his surrender looks different than mine. What am I not to do? I am not to judge him. I am not to yell at him. I am not to shun him from my love, meaning, oh, you don't want to do this right, then I don't want to be around you. I don't want to be around you. Because there was, matter of fact, in December, he came and got my son. When he brought him back, he wanted a hug, and I said, no, because you just peed me off. No, don't worry about it. Don't do that to him. That's the first time I've ever not given him a hug when we saw each other. I believe that's the first time. Don't do that to him. What not to do, chastise him, focus on his actions or lack of actions, cuss him out. I didn't put that here, but don't cuss him out. We don't talk like that, so I don't even feel like that's the thing I need to put here, because that's not how we talk to each other anyways. That was just a moment of me just trying to be like done with the thing, and that's what I tried to do. I watched War Room on January 7th. Now on January 8th, I had a dream, and I'm only going to tell you all the important parts of it. But I had a dream that I was receiving a call from someone named Angel Grace. Now remember, a couple days ago, I saw the word grace 5 times. God, from this time, from the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th, I've been hearing the word grace everywhere. I've been seeing it everywhere. So God has really been on me about grace. And I don't think it was just about giving him grace. I think it was also just about giving me grace for my new journey, grace for where I was going. Because in this whole time, while we are separated, God has been trying to heal me. All of those things that came up in the fight, that came up after the fight, God is revealing and exposing me to myself and exposing me in places where I still need to be healed. A lot of time when we're not dating and when we're not dealing with certain people, we think that we are healed until we go into a new situation and they trigger us. And it's like, I could have swore I resolved this issue like 5 years ago. But sometimes you need those people to assist you with healing. And so, you know, a lot of people, they'll swear their lives off and not date anybody, and they think, oh, I haven't dated in 10 years, so now I'm ready. Have you been around anybody who exposes your traumas to you, who triggers you? My best friend is my number one trigger. He always trigger me, but he's always showing me where I need to be healed at. So then in this dream, I remember I received a call from someone named Angel Grace. That was their contact name. And I remembered it was this guy. I remember feeling like it was this guy that I had been talking to, but I didn't really want to talk to him. However, I answered the phone. And we talked for some time. And then I remember the scene switched. And I ended up on the floor. I was on his lap, face to face. So like, let's say I'm him. I'm sitting in his lap, legs around his waist, face to face. My arm is around him in an embrace. My arms is around his neck. His arms are around my waist. We are naked, no clothes on. And again, we're sitting on the floor. And he was trying to like kind of lift me up to sit on him, his penis. He was trying to put me on him, and I didn't want to, but I never got up out of his embrace. So he was trying to sit me down, pretty much like pulling me closer to him. Like you can't get no closer to nobody than by entering them. Like sex is the most intimate thing that you can do with anybody because your bodies are coming together. So he was trying to sit me up on him, and I didn't want him to do that. However, I did not get up and I did not get out of his embrace. And then I remembered feeling like he had just gotten out of prison and I needed to get tested. And so then in the next scene, I was in this house and I was in this dark living room, and my cousin Quan came in, and he was young. Quan is like a year or two older than me, but he was like young boy face. And he had on this big white shirt and these jean shorts, but they were so big on him that they came down like pants. And he came in the house, and him and my cousin Tiffany were in the kitchen, and I'm in this dark living room, and he's fussing about some girl who won't have sex with him. And Tiff is like, yeah, F these B words. And then she was like, but you know, sometimes dudes don't get tested because my dude just gave me something, so I can see why they won't, you know, mess with you. But then she came back again and was like, but yeah, F these B words, F these B words. And I was like, Tiff, you can't say that and then say that. And then she was like, because those are like two completely opposite different things. That just spoke to me too. Wow. And she was like, yeah, I'm just trying to calm him down. Like, I'm trying to calm him down. And I was like, yeah, because he already looking old and young at the same time with them big clothes on. And in this scene, his last name was Lee. So his name was Quan Lee. That's not his real name for real. Matter of fact, I think that's his mama's last name. I don't know. So then his sister, Fiona, she gave him this old lady name, and we started calling him Glenda Lee. Like, she gave him the name Glenda, and we started calling him Glenda Lee, and we was like falling down laughing. We was like, you Glenda Lee, just laughing. And my cousin Shad, his older brother, came in and was like, y'all, we so drunk. So, and by that time I had moved into the kitchen, so I was in the kitchen with them. Now let's break this dream down. The guy that I was dating, or the guy that I said I don't want to talk to, that I said was calling me, remember the caller ID said Angel Grace. But I remember feeling like it was this guy. His name started with a K, so I'm going to say it was him. It was him, and I didn't want to answer, but I did. His name means God is gracious. So not only was somebody named Angel Grace calling me, but his actual name means God is gracious. So I'm coming face to face with God's grace, because remember, I was sitting in his lap, butt naked, no clothes on, and he was trying to lift me up so that he could enter into me. This is complete vulnerability and humility. Not only was it intimate in a way of we were intimate in the way of being naked. We were intimate in a way of him trying to enter me, but we were intimate in a way of sitting on the floor. That is the most humble stance that you can have with God, when you're praying on your knees, when you're praying on the floor, when you're face down on the floor praying to God. That is one of the most humble stances you can take in your prayer life. So God was saying, this phase for me requires complete vulnerability and humility, coming face to face with God's grace. And it includes a lot of intimacy, but I can't be scared. Remember, I was scared to allow him to enter me, but on a spiritual sense, I can't be scared of God's grace entering me. I can't be scared to give my best friend grace. I can't be scared to give nobody grace. God's grace is undeserved favor and kindness. Everybody is worth what God is giving to us freely. If God is giving that to me freely, who am I to say that you cannot have that for me? So God is saying that this moment for me, this phase for me, this season for me requires complete transparency, requires complete vulnerability, requires complete humility. And humility in this sense means me not thinking that I know anything. Forget everything that I already know. I'm going strictly off what God is leading me in right now. I'm not even leading off of what God has told me in the past. I'm in a whole new season right now. God is trying to heal me. If God decides that he wants to remind me of something that he told me in the past, that's fine. But I can't go back into my mental bank of knowledge and just go back choosing what piece of knowledge I want to apply in this specific situation. Me being completely led by God, I need to rely strictly on him. So that's that scene. And when I asked God why he used that guy, why he used him out of all people, God led me to Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 4. Justice has become perverted. Justice, God's righteousness, God's ability to maintain favor and be firm in fairness. For me, it's become perverted because the enemy constantly gets me to feel like vulnerability is bad. That's one of my biggest struggles with my best friend, and I've always been honest with him about that. I struggle being vulnerable with him because being vulnerable means, being vulnerable means putting yourself at risk to be hurt. Literally, you are by yourself. There's an army of soldiers coming at you. You ain't got no weapon, but there's an army of soldiers coming at you and you're not scared. That's what vulnerability is. Vulnerability is putting yourself at risk, no matter it's emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, sexually, spiritually, in any type of way, putting yourself at risk and trusting that you won't get hurt. Y'all, I'm terrified of that. I'm terrified to be completely transparent with this man that I love so much. That has been a struggle since I fell in love with him. That has been a struggle for me. So, God is saying to me, like, I keep making it like that vulnerability is a bad thing, and it's not. I got to stop seeing it as a bad thing, because that's where I struggle. When I get weak in my knees with him, that's when I got to get strong in my mouth, strong in my mind. Now I can't let you come around me. Now I got to be prideful. It's unnecessary. This is where God is saying, like, this is going to be real intimate for me. This is going to be a lot for me to have to deal with. So that's why he used that guy. I said, this is about to get very intimate, very vulnerable for me. There's a breaking about to happen. And God is breaking this stuff off of me. So when my cousin Quan comes in, y'all, I looked up the name Quan. In Hebrew, it means permanent, to fix, to establish, to prepare. But also, and I think Japanese, it means God is gracious. So not only had I been seeing seeing the word grace everywhere, but then I get a call from somebody named Angel Grace. Then the guy that I realize it is, his name means God is gracious. Then my cousin's name means God is gracious. God is telling me He's trying to overflow me with so much grace that they have no choice but to flow over into the other areas of my life. Quan, so first off, they were in the kitchen. Quan, God is gracious. Tiffany means manifestation, means God's glory is about to come about. God is gracious, God's glory in the kitchen where you prepare stuff. God is about to prepare me for whatever is about to happen. And whatever about to happen, it's about to manifest. God's grace is about to manifest. God is going to put me in situations where His grace is going to manifest. Now, mind you, I'm in this room with no light. I'm in this living room with no light, but they in the kitchen. God's light is in there. God's light, the manifestation, God's grace, I have to go to the light to see it. Changes within myself, changes within my friendship with my best friend, changes within my life. I have to go to the light. I have to be an active participant in that. It's about to get very intimate for me. It's about to do a lot for me. Quan had on this big white shirt. Now, white, we know white represents purity. It's a big shirt, a lot of room for him to grow in. But also that big shirt can symbolize protection. When you have on a big jacket, you're extra protected from whatever is going on around you. If you have on something too small, you're very vulnerable. My cousin had on this big shirt, these big clothes. Glenda, his sister Fiona, she called him Glenda. She gave him the name Glenda. Glenda means pure, clean, holy, and good. Lee means my salvation, protected from harm. Quan Lee, Glenda Lee, he had on a white shirt that means purity. And he had on big clothes that symbolize protection. God is saying that His grace is protected. His grace is protecting me. His grace is protecting my promise. His grace is protecting my best friend. God's grace is all up and through this thing. I forgot where it was. I forgot what it was that just stuck out to me. Oh, so remember, my cousin is fussing on about these girls. This girl won't give them none. And my cousin Tiffany said, yeah, F these B words. Then she said, but yeah, you know, these dudes don't be getting tested sometimes. But then she went back to saying F these B words. And I said, Tiff, you can't do that. That's two different things. And what God is saying to me is that you can't keep going back. You can't keep saying this thing and then doing this thing and then saying this thing and then doing this thing. You need to let your words and your actions match. And it's crazy because I've been telling that to my best friend. That's so crazy. God will use the things that I'm requiring from Him to let me know that you're not even doing that. You're saying one thing and then you're doing one thing and then you're doing one thing and then saying another thing. You're not even what you're asking Him for. You can't be saying one thing and doing what you want and thinking that He's supposed to figure things out. That's so crazy. That did not hit me till just then, y'all. That's not written in my notes. I'm going to have to go back and write that down. But you have to let your words and your actions match. So, again, God is letting me know. And then remember, I moved from the dark room to the kitchen where everything is being prepared. God needs an active participant in this thing. God needs me to be a part in this. I cannot be in this dark room being ignorant. willfully ignoring the knowledge that God is trying to give me. Willfully ignoring the things that God is trying to do within my life. Willfully choosing my own path. I cannot do that anymore. So when I said there's about to be a breaking, I ain't really realized all of this until I just said this. There is a breaking happening. I feel myself being humbled. I see where God is using me to do things that I would have never done before. Where God is using me to speak in a different way that I wouldn't have done before because it's way too vulnerable for me. So let me move forward and stay on track, y'all. So on January 9th, God had me in Genesis chapter 41, but verse 37 stood out because Pharaoh had Pharaoh acknowledged that the Spirit of God was in Joseph. And so at that, it just made me want to pray for him, pray for my best friend. But I had a vulnerable moment with God, and I told him, I don't want to pray for him because I feel like the prayers is not even being answered. Like, I done been fasting for this man. I done prayed for this man. I done covered this man. I done interceded on his behalf for 3.5 years. We're still not married. We're not even on good terms right now. Like, it's completely the opposite of what I thought my prayers would have gotten me. So I don't want to pray for him. I don't want to. I don't want to pray for him. I don't know how to pray for him because nothing is happening. So, what ended up happening is I went into Bible study with God and I cried. And I ended up recording this prayer that I was going to send to him, but it was like 14 minutes long and I ended up deleting it by accident. But I prayed Psalms 51:10 over us and Ezekiel 36, and I think it's 26 through 27 over us. And I'm going to go ahead and find that. So Psalms 51:10 is the verse that says, create in me a new heart and renew a loyal spirit within me. And so what I asked God, I opened straight to Ezekiel. Thank you, Lord. When I asked God is, don't give us a loyal spirit to each other. Give us a loyal spirit to you. Like, give us a loyal spirit to you that causes us to want to do your will. In Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 26, it says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I will place my spirit within you and cause you to follow my statutes and carefully observe my ordinances. So God told Ezekiel, I will give you a new heart and I will place my spirit within you. And my spirit within you is going to want to follow my rules, follow my commandments. And so I prayed that over us for 15 minutes, y'all. I prayed that God gave us a new heart and a new spirit, a spirit that wanted to do God's will. It don't have nothing to do with each other at this point. It don't have nothing to do with, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you neither. Have nothing to do with that. It have everything to do with when God is leading me to do something, I'm going to do it. And guess what, y'all? At this point, I don't even ask all them questions that I used to ask. I started this message saying I used to ask God, why I got to do this? When he going to do this? Is he going to respond to this? Is he going to say yes? I don't even do all that. When God's had me to do something, I ask him, are you sure? And then I do it. And I don't look for nothing in return. And that's the biggest thing that God has been trying to show me in this whole thing, or even in my life with him. It's okay for me to want him to love me back. But when God is instructing me to do something, I can't disobey God because I don't know if he's going to do it back. I have to focus strictly on what God is asking me to do. So if God say call him, you don't need to be worried about if he answered the phone or if he calls back. You just need to make sure you call him. If God says send him a message, you don't need to worry about if he responds to it. You just need to worry about if you did it. If God says tell him I love you, you don't need to worry about if he says it back. You just need to worry about doing what God said. And that has been the message that God has been trying to teach me over the last 3 years. But I have finally begun to understand over the last 3 weeks. Why? Because God be having me call him and he don't answer the phone. And God be having me text him and he don't text me back. The only time I have heard from this man in the last 3 weeks is when I'm talking about my son. My son had a situation with school and we was texting about that. That was it. Anything else that I say, he not responding to it. And guess what? I don't even look for him to respond anymore. long as God is pleased with me at the end of this thing, and I did what he told me to do, that's all I can ask for. God's grace. God's grace moving into this new territory of being humble. Being humbled in a way that I'm supposed to love you even if you're not giving me that love back. I'm supposed to respect you even if you're not giving me that respect back. I'm supposed to honor you even if you're not giving me that honor and recognition back. Because at this point, it's no longer about you and what I'm looking for from you. I'm looking to please God. If God is pleased with me, then that's it. Now, it doesn't mean after a while I don't look for him, right? Because there's been time where like the first 5 messages and voice notes that I sent him, he would like them. What that did was tell me that he listened to it because he don't have no red receipts on. All that did was tell me that he listened to it. That was good enough for me. He listened to it, he acknowledged it, and he let me know he acknowledged it. And then it became a point where he stopped liking it. And I think after the first one, I was like, dang, like he don't even like it no more. Again, it's not about that. It's about me getting whatever message God wants me to get to him. It's about saying that. That's it. Whether he like it, love it, dislike it, question it, whether he don't respond to it at all, it's not about that. It's about what God said. And it took a really long time for me to understand that because nobody loves without wanting that love back. Nobody like willfully and constantly does that without wanting that back. And again, y'all, and I keep saying this, not that it's an excuse, but for 3.5 years, this has been who I've loved. It's the only man that I wanted. So, and I've had to witness him be in a relationship. I had to witness him date other girls while I couldn't date, while I couldn't talk to nobody else. So absolutely, it's nothing wrong with me wanting that love back. However, if that desire for that love keeps me from doing God's will, that's a big problem. Because now I'm teetering into disobedience territory. Now I'm telling God, listen, I'm not going to do what you say unless you give me that. And let me tell you, only obeying God just to receive his hand, you gonna always be led astray because that's not how that works. You don't obey God just to get his hand. You obey him because you love him and you respect him and you want to honor him. Period, point blank. Nothing else to be said about that. Nothing else to be said about that. You do what God said, and if nobody does anything back, it's okay. Because guess what? You can say, Lord, I obeyed you today. I ain't disobey you, Lord. You told me to do this thing and I did it, Jesus. Are you proud of me? Are you happy with me? So, this is what God has been having to show me in the last 3 weeks. And so now we're going to get to where do I stand with this thing now? I'm in a place of healing. I'm in a place of, again, God is exposing all these different things within me that cannot go with me in my next season, cannot go with me when God restores me, cannot go with me as God continues building me as a wife. These are things that have to fall off of me. One of them is I have this very hyper vigilant fear. And I told my best friend this one time before. I have a very hyper vigilant fear about being hurt. And when I say hyper vigilant, I mean, this is partially the reason why, this is the whole reason why I don't like being vulnerable, because I don't like putting myself at risk to be hurt. My son, I've said this multiple times, my son and my best friend, they are my favorite father-son duo. However, I have this very dramatic fear that one day my best friend is going to wake up and say, oh yeah, I don't want to deal with him no more, so I don't have to. That holds me in bondage. I'm not going to hold you. That holds me in bondage. Because my son's father is not in his life at all. My son hasn't seen his father since he was 3 months old. His father through his actions, he doesn't want to be a father because I don't want to be with him. This is the last thing that I heard. Now, that was in 2021. I don't know if anything has changed since then, but when I was pregnant and I broke up with him, he did not do my pregnancy with me because I didn't want to be with him. Afterwards, when I allowed him to, get to know my son and stuff like that, when I broke up with him again, he started denying him. That's not my baby. And he has been on that since then. He don't want no parts of my son. If that means he cannot have me, that man cannot have me. So I guess my son just walking around here without a father. So for me, it's kind of like, If the man who begged me to have this baby does not want to be in his life, then that means anybody else can and will do that same thing to him. And that's not fair. That's not fair for the people who want access to my son, but I'm so hyper vigilant that I'm scared to do that. That's not fair because I'm keeping my son from different relationships. It's people who love him, who want to be around him, who want to care from him. But me and my hypervigilant fear says, no, you're going to wake up and hurt him one day. I'm the only one that feel like I'm not going to hurt my son. Just me. I'm the only one on this planet that's not going to hurt him. That's not good thinking. That's not fair thinking. Because I know my best friend loves my son. I know he cares about my son, but I have this fear that one day he's going to wake up and not want to be there anymore. God is working on me with that. All right. So you say, when you talk about your best friend, you say, oh, he really loves me. Like, he really cares about my son. And then you say, he might wake up one day and hurt him. Which side you going to be on? Again, what I said back in that dream, you can't say both things. You can't stand on both grounds. Which side you gonna be on? You either want that man in his life and you will allow him to have access to him, or you gonna leave him alone and your son just don't have nobody in his life. Which one you gonna pick? So God is healing me in that way. God had been speaking to me a lot about false doctrines and the things that teach us, which are completely the opposite of God's words. And so that's one of them. Another one is fear that things won't happen. It's been so long. Why would it happen now? My best friend shows that he has a hard heart. I show that I have a hard heart. We both show that sometimes we don't even like each other enough to be in the same room. How can it happen? It's not going to happen. It's not for me to be on that type of time when I know who I serve. It's not about trusting that my best friend will do what he's supposed to do, or trusting that I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. It's about trusting God to touch us and lead us in the way that we should go. Lead us down the path of righteousness for his name's sake, for his purpose. Lead us down the good path. Lead us down the path that we're supposed to go for his purpose. It's Psalms 23:3. It's for me to believe in that. Not what I see, not what I think, not what I fear. So, also, again, another false doctrine is God's timing versus my own. If it don't happen now, it's never going to happen. How many times in the Bible did somebody have to wait for God to come through on something? How long did Abraham wait for the promise of Isaac? How long did he wait before he became the father of many nations? David, how long did he wait between him being anointed as the king of Israel and actually becoming the king of Israel? All these people, they have plenty. There's a journey that has to happen. There's a processing that has to happen. Just because it's not happening right now doesn't mean that it won't happen. God is having to renew my mind about that. And that is a struggle because we just live in a place where everything, if it don't happen right now, it's not going to happen. If I don't get the job right now, it's not gonna come. If I don't get the husband or the wife right now, it's not gonna come. God promised me a baby. I ain't had a baby, and he promised this 5 years ago. I'm never gonna have a baby. Now we seeing women who are 43 years old and 48 years old and 38 years old having kids. That was never heard of 5-10 years ago. And they having healthy babies. They made us believe years ago that after a certain age, you can't have no baby or your baby is at higher risk for having certain illnesses. And I keep wanting to say malfunctions, but that's not the word I'm trying to use. But anyways, they made us believe that back then, that we can't get up in age and be having kids. And you have people who are just now. What about Ashanti and Nelly? They just had a baby and they just got married. These folks dated over 20 years ago. It's not about our timing. It's about God's timing. It don't matter when you think your biological clock stopped working. It don't matter when you think your clock for your life is supposed to start and supposed to stop. It's about what God said. So that's a false doctrine that God is having to break me out of. If it don't happen right now, it's okay. If it don't happen after a fast, it's okay. If it don't happen after praying incessantly for 3 months, it's okay. God gonna move when God gonna move. It's okay. That's something that he really have to work with me with. And I said this when I said things don't happen, but fear that things have gotten too bad to repair. Like, I've hurt my best friend, he's hurt me, and I've even had this conversation with God, like, your love is supposed to be the purest love out here. Meanwhile, he and I have hurt each other a lot. How can something pure come out of this? How can your purest love come out of this thing? I have to rely on God for that. I have to trust that he's purifying and pruning, and he's going to do what he needs to do so that he can bring two complete people together, so he can bring two whole and healed people together. Remember, James 1 and 7, I think, or 14 says, everything complete and perfect comes from God. Every gift from God is complete and perfect. God is going to bring you something complete and perfect, needing nothing. James 1 and 4. That's what we're waiting on. So there's a lot of I'm not where I need to be with him. He's not where he needs to be with me. And it's okay. Because the last time I made a video and I said that, I had a lot of anger in that. And now I'm just at a point where I'm like, I could see why things ain't what I want them to be. We not ready. But God is getting us ready. God is preparing us for that. So, I'm not rushing the process. I'm not rushing through this healing process, because I've rushed through it for years, trying to get things right with him. Oh, God just dropped this piece of knowledge on me. Let me go to him, and so we could try to, let me go say this to him so we could try to rekindle things and stuff like that. It's not even about that, y'all, because at this point, I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over. I don't want to keep making the same mistake over and over. I want to get it right. I want to not have to come up here and tell y'all how we still not talking because I done said something out the way, or because he done said something out the way. I want to do this right. I want my son to have a healthy person in his life. I want to be a healthy person in somebody else's life. I want to have a healthy person in my life. So I'm allowing God to do this healing. I'm allowing God to overflow me with this grace and understanding and wisdom and knowledge that is needed for where I am going. Not just in a marriage, but God used me on this podcast. God used me in my books. Everything that God is telling me, I tell y'all. I tell other people. I have to sit still and allow God to do what he's doing so that I can come back and tell this stuff to people. So it's not just about no marriage, and don't ever, get it twisted about that. That's where a lot of people struggle in this journey. You think it's just about getting back with your person. That's where I struggled at in this journey. It's not just about being with him. It's about the people who are attached. It's about the ministries that come forth out of this. It's about the businesses that come forth out of this. This is not just about me and my everyday desire to have a husband in the house. This is not just about me and my desire for my son to have a father. This is so much more and so much deeper. This is about my best friend's healing. So, in this season, God is healing me. And I already did a series about being healed. And yeah, it's not saying that didn't work, but it's saying that I have this erratic fear that God is trying to undo in my life. And maybe I need to sit in it a little bit longer, because at that time, I don't think I was talking to my best friend then, but we started talking soon after that. But maybe I just need more time. So I'm learning to be okay with this time. I'm learning to get my wisdom and knowledge so that I can do things right. So that's where I am with things right now. And this video I didn't intend for it to be this long, because I absolutely wanted it to be, this is where I wanted to put that, let God give you the desires of your heart. But I'm going to go ahead and end this right here, and then I'll just do a part 2 to that. So this one, I'm probably just going to name it like a Kingdom Marriage Update, and then I'll record the other one and post it afterwards. So, y'all, I hope this wasn't everywhere, because I've never told y'all my dreams. I definitely am a dreamer. God be telling me a lot of stuff in my dreams. Like, God told me, I've seen my best friend's family in my dreams. I learned his mama name from my dream. Like, I didn't know her name. I learned a lot of stuff from my dreams, not just about him, but, you know, even my sister. My sister was dealing with this guy that wasn't healthy, and she told me a long time ago she stopped dealing with him, and I had 2 dreams in a row that she was dealing with him, and I brought it up to him, and she was like, no, I'm not dealing with him, and then come to find out she was dealing with him. So I be knowing a lot of stuff from my dreams. I just don't say nothing all the time, but God, you know, I am a dreamer. God does speak to me through my dreams. And so, yeah, hopefully this wasn't too confusing for y'all, but let this just be the segue for the next thing of the next episode of Let God gift you the desires of your heart, because you have to be in a certain place to receive things. And that's what I'm going to talk about on the next one. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this right here. Y'all, I hope you guys have been having a blessed new year so far. I'm thankful that you all are still here with me. I'm thankful to be back to the podcast. I'm hoping to stay around a little bit longer this time to get this stuff out to you guys, because I do think that it helps you. I hope it helps you, and I hope God blesses you through my testimony and through the things that I tell you guys. Remember to always take it back to God, because how something applies in my life may not be how he wants it to apply in your life, and I don't want to be responsible for leading anyone astray. So y'all, I just thank y'all for tuning in on this episode, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace, love, and blessings to you all.